So in December 2006, we got married. And then he went back in February. So he spent 2 months, When we got married, the plan was I was going to stay a little bit with a family friend. And then we're going to process my own document and I'm going to come over to the UK. So there was no need of renting a house or anything because we're only looking at a space of some months. Like within 3-4 months, I would leave Nigeria. So in February of 2007, we traveled back to the UK. We took him to the airport, say goodbye and stuff like that. And then, like the second day, I received his call. And he just said, I'm coming back home. I said, what do you mean you're coming back home? Like, you just left. What do you mean you're coming back home? He said, I have been deported.
So, on my way going back to United Kingdom, I was really glad that
He shared everything he came with, even shoes.
Yeah, I shared everything I came with. I remember that time I came with like 3 bags, 3 empty bags. I shared everything. I remember the time I was going with only backpack. They messed up my passport. One of them said, you can't enter United Kingdom again. And I said, oh my God, what happened to me?
Welcome to another episode of the Dennis Benson Show. For this week's episode, I traveled all the way to Maryland to meet a very good friend of mine. I've been chatting with this lady for a very long time. Bumi and her husband, Coyote. She and the husband has an amazing story. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Let me know your thoughts in your comments below. And also don't forget to hit on the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can get notified each and every time I upload a new video. Let's get into the testimony.
So one of my friends was a friend to his friend, and they were talking one day. And then he said, oh, there is this girl that always like walk past. I think I like the girl that my friend was like, I know her. She's my friend. Okay, I'll take you to her house where she lives, And that was how one day they came visiting, my friend, him, and they came together. And honestly, to be realistic, I was not even thinking that we were gonna date because it just came like a friend, and we just met each other. And even at that time, I was dating somebody else, like me and someone else was talking. But it would just come to say hi once in a while. It would say hello. And then one time he told me that would you love to know how to drive? I said, oh yeah. He said, okay, he was going to teach me how to drive. So a little time we'll drive around. He would show me how to drive, even though he was not a good driver. Like, he's going to be like, really? Shouldn't you have gotten this and that? But that was just how we started to talk more often, And then after a while of being friends, and I told you it's complicated, right? I told you I was already like dating somebody. But because it was just so much caring, like, oh my goodness, he can call you like literally like 10 times a day. Where are you at? Have you eaten? What are you doing? Da, 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 da. It was just like into showing care. I wouldn't say showing love because we were not thinking of dating. But eventually over time, one day it was just like, you know what? My spirit told me you're going to be my wife. I mean, like, so I never got the luxury of like, how you propose and you kneel down and get a ring and stuff. He just told me point blank, like, you're going to be my wife. Are you going to be my wife? Because I know my spirit told me that. And then I was just like, okay, I'll think about it. And it was a hard decision to think about, but I know that I saw some qualities in him. I knew that it was, until now, he is very, very caring. So that was how we just started dating. And then we got married. 2006. That's about 17 years ago.
So I'll throw this question to your husband.
Yeah.
How did you know? How were you convinced that she was your wife?
Well, let me just say, during that time, we were in Lautech. I have an uncle back in Nigeria. I think they were like, we always go to Lautech for the projects we were constructing, the Senate building. So I was like, always, most of the time I met with her friend. What was her name? Is it Gbemi? So Gbemi, now I said to Gbemi, I saw one of your friends. Please, if you can take me to her house. I would like to meet her. So the first time we went there, we went to her house at the college, but unfortunately, she wasn't in. She went to church.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I knew there was the first time before the first time.
So she went to church. So I was so mad. I just said to Baby, okay, I will take you to the church. Let's go and see if you can see her at the church after the service. But unfortunately, I didn't know whether we made it to the church or we couldn't make it. So until after a week, we now went back there. Then we met her in our room. So unfortunately, we started like a friend. How would I say it? Nothing like.
Obviously, you knew your goal.
I don't. I know where I'm heading to, but after some times we traveled together. During the time I was planning to travel to United Kingdom. I think it was during 2004. I have my plans because seeing her, I was like, oh, this is going to be my wife. Something keep on telling me that she's going to be my wife. Even the time I traveled to United Kingdom, she tried to convince me not to go to United Kingdom, but I traveled. We got there. We did everything together. I remember those times we normally travel to Ibadan to get my visa, those things like that. So I traveled, and I can tell you, my mind keep on coming back to her. The spirit, I would say, oh, I'm not going to marry anybody in the United Kingdom. I'll still go back home to marry her. That's how we got married in 2006. And it's been, I can tell you, she's a very good wife. She's a very, I'm telling you. So,
All right.
I can tell you, God has ordained everything we are seeing today.
So one thing, while he was in the UK, it caused like crazy. Like all my friends know it. And unfortunately that period, it was like a new time where the phone just came,
Yeah.
So like nobody was really calling me like that except him.
And this was expensive too, right? To call.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't know.
He always call. Like what? I mean like what? So it's something that I knew that it's gonna, stay for a long time because I see that already in him.
Wow. So, so you said you were in a relationship. What convinced you that he was the one for you, compared to everyone else? And even if you're dating someone, that as a woman, there'll always be people around trying to hit on you and stuff. So, what convinced you that this is the man?
I mean, it was so funny because, like I told you, I was dating somebody, and that person we finished in college together. So he had gone for his service year, So when I picked up the phone, and he will talk to me, but then because he went to serve in a different place and there was no network, the network was bad, so we're not really communicating. But in my mind, I knew that since my mind told me that this is gonna be it, and to be candid, this other person too was a very great person, like very, very okay in all ramifications. But my mind kept telling me that this is gonna be it. This is gonna be it. So one day I picked up my phone and then I think I first of all emailed him that he should go to where he can talk because we have a conversation. So I told him everything that we're not gonna be talking no more. There is this thing that my mind is telling me that. He didn't believe me. He was like, no, it's a lie. That cannot happen. He did not believe everything I was saying. But I had to, of course, I was a good girl with a Christian mind. You're not going to be dating two people and stuff like that. So he now said that, I would not believe you until I come to your house to talk to your parents, So now he came. I'm not even sure my mom knew the mission why he came. So he left where he was and then he came to my place where we used to live in Adoekiti. So when they came, my parents was home. They were nice to him, but they would not even know the mission why he came anyway. So as we were talking, he brought it up and said, oh, he said it in Yoruba, Adekumura wedding Bumi, which meant like congratulations on Bumi getting married. Because he wanted to know what my parents was gonna say. Like if my parents are gonna be like, what marriage or whatever. So my mom started talking, like, we thank God, yes, we are preparing for it. And then he was looking at me like, for real, this is a real thing. So,
So
that
you told
day,
him you were about to get married.
married, yes, I told him. Yeah, even when the dating started, I told him, but he was not believing, like, because there was distance, he was serving very far away, he was like 10 hours away from me. There was a distance, but I've told him everything. So he said until he comes and he sees with his own two eyes, because there was no fight. And honestly, if not because my heart was convinced that this was going to be it for me, there was no reason for me to pull out of that one. And then when he came to my house, I don't know if my mom remembered, they even offered him, because we have a boys' quarter, we have like another flat, because he came from Lagos. He had left where he was serving. They even offered him to stay the night because it's too dark. He said no, he was going to go. He rented an hotel. He had gotten the confirmation that he wanted to get. Yeah. So he was like, no, he's going to go, thank you for the offer. Because they were like, we have a lot of rooms. Why don't you pass the night? It's too late. But the reason why he came was, he had already gotten the confirmation from my parents using, So that was how the whole thing ended. And they just said, you know what, I wish you well. And that was it. But my heart was strongly convinced, not even because my husband was in UK, because I never knew he was even going to travel when we started the whole relationship. Like, it was later on into the relationship, he started talking about his goals of traveling, and then I was okay with it. So I think that's the part. So the question was what convinced me. It was just an inner witness. So I wouldn't say there was a dramatic thing that happened. It wasn't like an angel showed up in a dream or something, but it was just an inner witness that I knew this is gonna be it. Yeah, and that's why I cut off the other one. Yeah.
And right after your wedding, adversity started happening. So
wow.
right after the wedding.
Yes, honestly, if it was to be in the traditional context, they would say the woman is a bad woman, because when you get married and something bad happened, like you just got married and something bad happened, in my culture, they always say, oh, the woman brought bad luck or whatever thing, it would, because that was like what it was. So in December 2006, we got married, and then he went back in February. So he spent 2 months, And meanwhile, having in mind that he doesn't have nothing in Nigeria, he doesn't have a house, no home and everything. When we got married, the plan was I was going to stay a little bit with a family friend. I was going to stay with them. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to process my own document, and I'm going to come over to the UK. So there was no need of renting a house or anything, because we're only looking at a space of some months. Like within 3-4 months, I would leave Nigeria. So in February of 2007, we traveled back to the UK. We took him to the airport, say goodbye and stuff like that. And then, like the second day, I received his call. I was thinking it's just a call to tell me that, oh, I've arrived, everything is fine. And he just said, I'm coming back home. I said, what do you mean you're coming back home? Like, you just left. What do you mean you're coming back home? He said, I have been deported. I thought it was just like a joke, like he was trying to see. Like, then later it would be like, ta-da, it's a lie, I'm home. I was expecting that to happen. But it never happened until, for real, we had to go pick him at the airport. So I think he should talk more about that. Right.
Yeah, well, what actually happened that time, like she has said, after the wedding, we got married in December. After the wedding, on my way going back, I was in Nigeria for almost 2 months. So on my way going back to United Kingdom, I was really glad that we have plans that she will stay with one of my friends.
You shared everything you came with, even shoes.
Yeah, I've shared everything I came with. I remember that time I came with like 3 bags, 3 empty bags. I shared everything. I remember the time I was going with only backpack, because I've got so many, I've got everything. I don't own anything in Nigeria. I have everything in United Kingdom. But getting to the port of entry, I remember I took Africa flight back. I still remember that time. So getting to United Kingdom on the port of entry, I was like a joke. That man said, I have to check your bag. You have to follow me from the port of entry. The immigration guy said, we have to go check your bag. Okay, getting to my bag. He said, oh, I need to search your bag. I want to know if you are living in United Kingdom. Is it your first time of coming to United Kingdom? I said, no. Look at they check my passport. I've been here like 2-3 times. What we normally do that time, I've got no papers to work back in London. But being in London, you have to get something doing. Because how are you going to cope? Yeah. You can't. You have to pay. In London, you are living in United Kingdom. You have to pay every week. It's not like here. If you rent an apartment right here, you pay every month.
Even if it's every month, you still have to get a job.
Every week. I remember that time. I normally pay with one room. Then, but I was living. I've got a good job. I'm telling you, but with fake papers. Oh. That's what everybody does. So with fake papers. So I was working in one, I'm getting good money. So the time I was going back, let me go and start working again, because everything, we spent everything on the wedding, everything like that. So the guy just started. Why you are working in United Kingdom? One mistake I made, the tag on my bag, the time I was traveling back to Nigeria, all this tag, the airlines normally put on your bag. Instead of me to remove it, because I travel with another name, because what we normally do during that time, you send your real passport, your visa passport, you send it back home. During that time, United Kingdom is a police country. They can burst into your home at any time. But so what we normally do is, getting to United Kingdom, you will send your passport back home. So if you send it back home, if anything happens during the time you were living in United Kingdom, you will grab your passport back. If they deport you back to Nigeria, you will get your passport back and you come back to United Kingdom. So that was how the immigration guy said, I have to send you to call. I don't want to, I have to send you back home. You are not supposed to be working in United. He saw loads of evidence that I was living in United Kingdom.
What was you said the tag, only the tag?
Not only the tag.
Yeah.
I think
some bills, maybe the phone bill or something.
The bills were in your bag?
Yeah.
I think he had a phone bill. Yeah, he had something.
He saw my address book. During that time, we normally put, you have the diary. Yeah. So he saw so many things.
He went through all of that?
Yeah, he saw some phone numbers and my address where I lived. And so many things like that. So on that night, the guy sent me to immigration. What do they call it?
You just deportation.
Deportation. This thing.
So when you got to UK?
Yeah.
That was at the airport. So
at the airport.
It hasn't even left Heathrow. It's more like, and a lot of these people they travel with. How it is. Visiting visa. You're just supposed to visit with it and come back. But our people now.
So what happened is this: the guy, the second day, the flight that brought me back took me back to Nigeria. I remember I it was, I think if I can remember, that day was Wednesday. Then the flight brought me back on Friday night. Nobody even. I remember I called my my mother-in-law. I told her, Mommy said, no problem. You can come back home. There is nothing we can do. But the only good thing is that these people didn't take they took everybody, they took fingerprint, but they forgot to take my fingerprint. And they messed up my passport. One of them said you can't enter United Kingdom again.
They canceled it?
They canceled it, and they said, I don't think we can allow you to, you can't enter this country again. And I said, oh my God, what happened to me? But thank God they didn't even remember to take my fingerprint. Not only me, we were like almost 6 or 7 of us deported that day. Deported back to Nigeria. I remember. But
And I remember that night when we were going to go pick him, I was so sad. It was just a lot going through my mind. If it's someone that has something to fall back in Nigeria, of course, we'll think about, oh, we're going to pick it up, But it's more like, it was even the frustration in the country, first of all, that made him to want to travel, because it was hard, like, okay, how do we make ends meet? How do we do this? That frustration was already there, and that's why he traveled. And then coming back, to what that the reason why you left in the first place. So I remember that I was very, very sad. I was in Lagos. I was with his best man, the man that did best man. He was a very great guy. The guy was talking to me, was like, when there is life, there is hope. You guys will have to summon the courage and face it again. And, he kept talking and just, being positive and optimistic, because it was me and the best man, the man that was the best man, that went to pick him at the airport. So he kept talking to just pass, positivity, for me to be, because he can read through my mind that a lot was going on in that mind, So when we picked him up, I just have to I didn't want to show the discouragement on my own face, because already, this is somebody that's already beaten, like, he's already down. And then you show your own frustration again, both of you. I mean, like...
How are you feeling?
So that time I was thinking, how am I going to survive? That was my thinking, because I remember that time I came back with 200 pounds. How am I going to survive with these 200 pounds? I just said, I've got nowhere to stay. I've got no clothes. I remember I only had my wedding shoe.
That shoe
I only
suffered.
had my wedding shoe. I was like, loads of things is going through my mind. Even to sleep on that night, I couldn't sleep. I was like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to start? I remember she has no job that time too.
Yeah, I just finished
How are we going to cope?
I finished college. I finished college 2006.
That was.
I haven't even gone for my service year.
That was what running through my mind. Well, we woke up the second day. That my friend is a very good guy. He was like, no worries, keep on encouraging. And the good thing is about our too is that none of us is like, how are we going to settle down here in Nigeria? I have no job for her, but we keep on praying. Wow. Yeah, we keep on praying and see what God did for us today.
So the part after we sank everything in, and that's one of the things why it's good to have a good support system, because when you have a support system, that kicks in, because both of us were like nothing, So I remember that a lot of times. So I was in Lagos, but for him, it was shuttling between, after we've already knew that, we know that we have to start figuring out what to do. So the good thing, my parents, they opened up their door, Of course, they knew the unfortunate situation and the situation we were in. So he was always going to my parents' house because there he got like a small contract with somebody, like help sell equipment, help sell this and that. You know, you get a commission from, if you sell this, you get a commission, you know. So because of that, he travels a lot, you know. He travels, he will go to Ado-Ekiti where we grew up, and then we'll stay with my parents. Sometimes we'll be there for days, we'll come back again. And that's how we were living. And then at a point, I got pregnant, still in that suffering mode. So when I got pregnant, oh, I remember that there was one time where we were staying, you know, we were staying with his own friend, you know, with his best friend, who was the best man. But at a point, we knew that, you know, not with a friend, but the wife were like having a little, you know, women, it's hard for you to live together over time, you know, it's really, really hard. So there were some little sentiments and stuff like that. So somebody offered us a house, not a big house. It was one room and one like a self-contained. So somebody offered us that we should live in there. So they gave us that self-contained free of charge, but for a limited period, you know. Like for example, you can live here up to a year, you know. So we moved to that self-contained and we were living there, you know, so that we can let this other couple breathe, because now we are beginning to be a family, you know, even though we never knew that we're gonna be in that situation. So that woman that gave us that self-contained, she was so generous. It was free. We never paid for it. Wow. But like I told you, there's an expiration time on that. Yeah. So when that period, when that offer expired, so I had no choice. So I went back home to my parents. So because he was already frequent with my parents' house, he was always going there forth and back. It's it's like 5 hours drive difference, yeah. Or 4 hours. That's Lagos to Ado-Ekiti. It's like New York to Maryland. Yeah. So it's not the same area. Yeah. So he was already frequent there. So I decided to move back home. So then I was even pregnant. So I moved back home with my parents, and I was just there doing my own thing. And then I went for my service year. You know, I was able to get a service year. You know, my parents tried with everything, with connection, we were able to get my service here to be in Ado-Ekiti. That's where my parents lived, you know. So I only went for 3 weeks. I went outside the state. I went to a different state for 3 weeks, then I came back. So anyway, I was just home, practically living with my parents. Like, and then sometimes he traveled a lot between going there and going to Lagos, but sometimes for extensive period, both of us will be there. I know. Normally in the culture, it would be as if what kind of man lives in the wife's parents' house, you know. Yeah. But I mean, it was the situation. It is what it was, you know. It was what it was at that time. So that was one of the ways that we survived. Yeah, because of course, I'm in my parents' house. I don't have to beg before I eat. I don't, you know. I was literally just enjoying my life there, you know. So that was one of the things that really helped through that time. And yeah.
At which point did you, I know from our pre-interview, you also went to the UK.
I was waiting for you to ask that question before I jump.
I remember during that time, I did the visa, I did the whole application for her. So during that time, we tried to file the application for her at the British Embassy. But fortunately, the application was approved. So she went. I was still in Nigeria, but she went to.
You can't go back to the UK.
I can't go back to UK. She went to London. She was there for almost
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Okay, but the reason why I went. So you know, when he went back, we started my own processing. And then it went through some months after it went through. So I didn't mean it was not deported. You know, as mine went through, I will go there and both of us will figure out our life. Whatever we have to do, we'll figure out. But because it came back home anyways. So at a point when I got the visa, I didn't use it. But when it was about to expire, my dad was like, this visa is about to expire. If it expired, they will not give you another one. They will not renew because they will ask you, why did you let it expire? So my parents paid for the trip because some people might be wondering, how is she able to go to UK if they are suffering? If they
Yeah.
you don't have anything, they're living in their parents' house. How did they go? Because the idea of somebody traveling is somebody who is buoyant, like you have the money, you travel and you came back. But my parents paid for the trip, so they wanted me to use the visa. So I was in UK for 3 weeks. But there too was a lot of challenge in terms of decision making. So when I got there, of course, my lovely aunt, she loves us so much and she know everything about the story that happened. So she told me, she was like, this one that God has brought you out of suffering, that God has brought you to London. We were in London specifically. It will be better for you to just stay. I will help you figure out, So, I mean, it was really a tough decision because I was thinking back home to ask nothing for me. Though I'd already started looking for a job, but nothing is forthcoming. I think it's even more terrible now, but back then too it was terrible. Like when you graduate from college, it's more like you have to fast and pray 1 million times before you can even get anything to do. So she told me that I think it's a good opportunity for me to just stay in UK and not go back. But this is me thinking in my brain, my husband is back home with no hope of him coming back. And now I have a daughter. My daughter was just few months. She was 6 months old. Yeah, remember I told you I was pregnant, and then I went 8 years. She was just like 6 months old. So my sister was helping me take care of her because my dad just wanted me to travel to use the visa. So it was a lot. I don't even think I told my parents about that decision, but it was a lot of things going through my mind. And then my aunt took me to somewhere, the train station, if I could get a job, because one of our friends was the manager at the train station. But when we got there, they said our friend traveled to Nigeria. And I thank God. See, God just does some things in a certain way because maybe I would have been enticed if the woman said, oh, okay, tomorrow start cleaning the station, and then they give me some few pounds. Now you're moving from somebody who has nothing to start receiving few pounds, and you know what that will be in Naira. So, but the woman traveled and they said she wasn't around, and then my aunt took me to another school again. We got to the school. She said I wanted to make application to start studying. Those ones said no, I have to go back to Nigeria to apply for school. So she was just looking for ways to make me stay, but thank God none of the ways worked. So she called me and said, well, she spoke with her friend. Her friend will soon be coming back, and the friend will give me a job at the train station if I want to stay. But something in my mind was not just convinced for me to stay. Like, I have this, there's just a way God just make me know that something is not sitting well, So it was looking tempting to want to take that offer, but I said no, I was going to go back. She was disappointed, like, how are you suffering back home and you still want to return back to the suffering, He said, this is your husband, the way you can help him. If you get a job here, you can be sending money back to him. And, he will be figuring out his life back over there, But honestly, I think it's a kind of a way that we are all raised, because we just not raised to be so rugged like that. We just like a smooth path, people. So I wasn't seeing myself doing all of those things. So I decided I was going to return back to Nigeria against all odds. The day I was going back to Nigeria, when my plane landed in Nigeria, I cried. I had this sadness all over me. Like, I should be happy that I'm going to see my people, my parents, my daughter, my husband, But none of it was coming to my mind. I remember I got to Ibadan. It looks as if my life, I just don't want to use the word depressed, because depressed is a bigger meaning, But when you have extreme sadness, especially when you know that, when it looks like you're not seeing any future in anything, right? So when we got home, my parents, I went back to my parents' house. Remember that I left to the UK from my parents' house. And of course, even though now this is about a year since we got married, or even more than a year, we are not even stable enough to get a place of our own,
This week's episode is sponsored by Afrix. If you're abroad and you're trying to send some money back home to Africa, make sure you use Afrix, because they have the best rates and they are fast as the speed of light. So make sure you download the app Afrix and use my promo code or my referral code, which is Dennis1, and you will thank me later. Let's get back into the testimony. When you came home, What work were you doing at the time?
I remember during that time, my brother gave me a car. My junior brother gave me a car. So during that time, like I think she said it during the time she was talking about that someone gave me a job, like a contract job that I was working for that man in Ado Ekiti. So I was shuttling between Ado and Lagos State. So I was the one that picked her up from the airport. So during that time, if I'm traveling, anytime I'm going to Ado Ekiti, I picked up people, then I get money from them just to buy gas, right? Something like that. So, and I remember that was even a time I normally go to a border, because where we were staying in in Lagos.
It's more like the border between Lagos and Ogun State.
Benin State.
Ogun State.
Ogun State.
Yeah.
So I normally go there to do, like, we call it kabu kabu, to bring some stuff for people to the
like
market.
advanced Uber, but
Yeah.
it's not Uber like you.
Yeah,
Like Uber before the technology.
Because during that time, when looking for job, nowhere to get jobs. So I have to think of how will I say, to get money to take care of my family. So it was really hell. It was really hell.
And then when I came back from the UK, after a while, he was able to gather little money. And then his younger brother added some money to it, and then we went to rent a house. So I left my parents' house.
Yeah,
so we went back to, I would say Lagos, because even people living there, they still say Lagos, but it's more like the border between Lagos and Ogun State, other states, So it's more like, how the DMV here is connected, like Maryland, DC, Virginia, where you don't even know when you're entering one to the other. Yeah. So, but we're just going to say Lagos for the purpose of this video, because Sangota is more like Lagos. So then we rented a house, and then I left home. But in between, my parents, they were always showing up, like, in terms of finances. He told me, like, after a long time, there are several times my father would give him money, but my father would tell him not to tell me. Like, my father would just give money to him. Like, he was the one that told me. So I know that financially, they've been there for us. Like, they are like the pillar that we, like, lean on, because I grew up in a middle income family, because we're not too rich, we're not too poor. My mom is a medical doctor, my dad was a technologist. He works with a higher institution. So we grew up in that steady income family, So I'll say like an upper middle class. Yeah. So we're not rich, but we're not poor. So, but however, regardless of that, we were poor, because it's really hard for you to keep asking your parent all the time. And honestly, I can't really remember a time where I specifically asked them. They always just use their discretion to give something, because it's not really like something nice that...
No, it's always difficult.
Yeah, like you just still keep asking as if you're in college or you're, So when we moved back to Lagos, we moved back. This house is a 3-bedroom house, but it was empty. We just like put some rug on the floor, put some TV, So we never had furniture, like, till we left Nigeria. But we did not. Yeah, we. That's gonna lead me to another story. I keep jumping from one story. We hardly lived in that house for 1 year before we came to America. So that house, but we did not even know when we were renting the house that we were coming to America, So that house was empty. Then in between, I got like a small job. That job was a funny one. It's like the insurance job. I suffered. So that job is like a marketing job where you have to market insurance. You know how hard it is to sell insurance even in America?
Yeah.
Even in America here. How much more back in Nigeria?
Yeah.
And we have to sell the policy. So I go from
Was it life
offices.
insurance?
It's life insurance, yes.
Selling life insurance in Africa.
Yeah.
I feel like you want me to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm
It's in
telling you.
Lagos, you know, Lagos is a
It
big
was
city.
really tough for her.
I remember I will wake up early in the morning. I will go from off. It got to a point that they knew me in offices, that when I'm coming, people will be hiding. Like, people don't, because I will go to them, I will talk, and you know, I don't even know why I'm not in marketing anyway, but I don't even think I have that skill anymore. As hard as those things are, I will still sell, you know, even though it might take me multiple returns, you know, to go to a particular person. I'll go from around that Ikeja or Akran. I don't think there is an office that I did not go to. Is it banks? Is it food factories? Everywhere, you know, just to sell the policy, because I'm not on salary. The way they pay me from the policy is whatever you sell, you get a commission out of it. So there are several months that will go by that I wouldn't get, because you have to get to a, they don't just give you like, because you have, they don't give you commission just like that. You have to get to a certain point. For example, say like the minimum is $50,000 naira. So if you don't get to 50,000 naira, they will not pay for you. They will not pay it out to you. So it might take you like 2-3 months to get to that target, you know. So it was more like not a job, honestly, because even though people that would see me too will wear shoe, will wear it. That's why when you see marketers, it's not everybody that is enjoying it. People will think like I have a real job, like going to them and and talking. All of these things is film trickle. You don't know how everybody is surviving. So months will go by that I would not get anything because I didn't make up to the point where they have to pay me out. You know? So it wasn't really a job. So I now went to join this small aviation people. You know, they will teach us how to be a travel agent, you know. So I went to join the travel agent. I paid them, you know. I remember my brother-in-law paid for me because I didn't have the money to pay them. So they were training me to become a travel agent. So people are traveling, I can get their ticket, I can do many stuff for them. So I was doing those training, and I was doing a Bible college with winners as well. So I just got myself busy, like I just got occupied, even though there was no real income, but I was so busy that early in the morning, I'm taking my bath, I'm going out like every other person is going out. But
And who was taking care of your
she was in school, yeah. So we put her, you know, in Nigeria, once you are like 1 year plus or two, there is always something for you. There's always something for your category, for your level. You would always find something. So we put her in school, then I'll go my own way. Then we'll pick her up when we're coming back from all of those things with, you know. So that was it. But before we went to get our own place, the day I came back from UK, I forgot that part. My dad, we were all talking. I don't know if my mom was there, but vividly I remember my dad was there. And my dad said, why don't you guys even try the visa lottery? That's the diversity immigrant visa, you know. We have never done, I mean, like, growing up, we see people lining up, you know, this is something you can do by yourself, but in Nigeria, a lot of people don't know how to do it by themselves, you know, they don't know how to use the computer, you know. And more maybe laziness, because even up to now, some people want to file for their citizenship. Even here in America, they will have to pay somebody, or they want to file for parent, they will have to pay somebody, you know, but there are things you can do by yourself. The same thing with the diversity visa. So we used to see people that would line up a lot, and I don't want to use riffraff, but they are like street boys, like uneducated people. They will just have this long line. All of them are trying to play the visa lottery. So at the back of my mind, it was more like something for the illiterate or something for the low class or something, you know. So it never ever occurred to us to do that. But my dad said, why don't you guys go and try this diversity immigrant lottery?
Yeah.
You know, so my brother, that's my older brother, he too lives in the UK now said, okay, I'm going to play for everybody. I'm going to Lagos tomorrow. So himself, my husband, they went to Lagos. You know, we were always traveling, shuttling Lagos back to Advocating. When they got to Lagos, they played for everybody in my family. All my siblings, it's 5 of us. My brother played for all of us, played for my husband, played for everybody, you know. And then we just forgot about the whole thing. You know, once you do those kind of stuff, you don't depend, you don't keep waiting for the result. I mean, what is the chances for you, you know?
We don't even put our mind on it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't even put your mind on it. Like, those are things you just do and close your eyes and move away, you know. But when God has his own ways, you know. And one day, I don't even know why my dad is coming up so much in this picture.
Yeah.
Because my
I
mom is here listening. My mom will be
that day,
thinking,
it was
Mommy, are you not thinking where is you in this picture?
What actually happened on that day?
Yeah.
It was on Saturday. I was sleeping in the house. I think she took more. It took more into our first daughter. She took her to where. I think you were. Are you the one
Maybe
making?
both of us. I was.
Yeah,
I
both
know
of
for
you
sure I
went
was
to do
making my
your.
hair.
You are making your
Yeah.
hair. So immediately you just came back home. You woke me up. I said, "What is going on?" Daddy just called that we won lottery.
My dad called me while I was in the salon and said
Yeah.
a package came home
Home.
for you. A post office man brought a package.
Brought a
And
package.
he said he opened it. It was something about the lottery. It looks like you won. I said, Daddy, stop playing.
I said,
Like-
forget about this.
So after my father called me and he was trying to read to me what was in the mail, from Kentucky. And, he was reading some of the things to me and immediately was clicking like this might be real. Like this is sounding so real. So I called my husband. He was home and I told him what my father had told me about. And he said, oh, the next day we're traveling to Adó-Ekiti. We're going to my parents' house. He said the next day. And that was true. I think it was a Sunday the next day. So we went back.
We traveled on Sunday.
Yeah, I can never forget for some reason.
Yeah,
Something's just, I don't know, something just stays. Like you just know the day of the week,
Yeah, we
It
traveled
was a Sunday.
as early as 6 o'clock on Sunday.
We
Yeah,
traveled.
just to confirm,
because-
hearing that kind of story.
And honestly, in between all of these struggles, my husband started praying a lot. My mother, she's a prayer machine gun. So she has exposed her to some of the pastors, the prophet, that prays for the family. So he's been praying a lot. He's been going on mountain. In fact, we skip this. Sometimes we'll go on mountain, they will assign like a 7-day fast, because I love Nigerians. We spiritualize everything,
Yeah.
which is not bad because if you know very well, the spiritual also controls the physical,
Yeah.
So everything, that's why every church in Nigeria is crowded because people have reason to pray. I'm not saying there's no reason to pray in America, but, there's a lot of problems back home that you pray too much,
But
Yeah.
prior to that, were you born again?
Yeah. Okay, let me just go back to that. I remember coming back.
God born again with the prophet.
Yeah, coming back after being deported back to Nigeria. By all means, you have to move closer to God, so that even if you are facing a lot of challenges, you will know God by force. So that's how it started. We started climbing the mountain.
You know what they call climbing the mountains? Like when you go
You
for
go to
seclusion,
mountain
like you go to pray.
Yeah, there was even a day.
And you are actually climbing mountain physically. Like they are always like on top.
There was even
Yeah.
a time we went for a program, myself, my wife, and my mother-in-law. We went for a program, and the pastor, the prophet, I remember the name, Prophet Bamishai said, I should climb the mountain for 21 days. How am I going to do that? With fasting, everything like that. They said you will spend 7 days in the Ikoyi mountain. You will
You go to
spend
another
7 days.
mountain,
You will
yeah.
spend another 7 days. You won't go home. Another 7 days. For 21 days, I did it. And during that time, I think after that time, this visa thing came up.
But
Just
while
after.
during prayer, there has always been word of knowledge.
They've been telling me that we are going back. We are going. We are going
But
to.
it's always like, how are you going to go back to a place where they've already like...
Yeah, we don't. Yeah, they've been telling us.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
they've
Like
been telling
almost
us.
everywhere,
Everywhere
All related men of God that don't know
the
themselves.
pastors,
Yeah.
they will tell me that I'm going back to you. One of them even
don't
said,
specify, but
one
they
of them even said to me that they saw me, both of us inside the plane. We are going back. We are traveling abroad. But I was like, how is it going to possible? Because even someone even came to me to tell me that I should go and try United Kingdom. I should try. I said, how are they going to give me visa? because these people said I cannot enter their country against them. Well, I just said, but after that, getting to Ado, we saw the document. I said, this God is a great God. That's how we started the process. And we thank God we are here today.
I know you are quickly trying to run it up.
Yeah.
If you have to go, but if we don't tell the whole thing, because it says by the grace of God we are here today. That's like concluding it. When you get a package, it doesn't come cheap. You have to spend a lot because you have to go for your medicals. You have to do all of these things, So truly, the package was real when we saw it, But you have to fill them, do the things you're supposed to do, and return them back in good time. So we thank God. Of course, we had backbones, we had pillars of support. They supported. We got those documents to go through, and then we sent it back. So when we now sent it back, now we're waiting for a final decision, because when you get those package, that doesn't mean that definitely you're going to be in America. It still requires some other processes. They might not call you for an interview or something. So we sent them back, we filled everything, and we started praying again that God, please let this thing be perfected like what you've started. And I remember I had one gold chain. I had a gold chain and a gold earring. I saved up money to buy it. I said when I was serving, because I told you about the service year. Serving means you're serving for the government. They will pay you a little peanut. But I was saving my peanut because mostly I lived in my house. I don't have to worry about no bills. So I saved up this morning. I gave it to my younger sister to buy me a gold chain and a gold earring, because that was the thing then. Everybody was wearing gold, and I just felt for my life like I can't even afford the gold for myself. But so my sister bought me that gold. She bought me so one day I was now praying, and I said, then we go to Winners, and I said, I want to do something that will cost me, and I want to tie it to this traveling to America. So I took the gold chain and the gold earring. I gave it to a neighbor of mine in Lagos. I told him to sell it for me and just give me the whole of the money. So the guy sold the gold. I don't know if he took out of it or whatever, but the amount that he gave me, I think he gave me the money. I put it in the envelope. The way he gave it to me, I just took it to church and I put it in the offering bowl. Everything, and I said, God, I tied this seed to us traveling to America because I want you to finish what you have started. So the prayer continued, and then after they returned back and said, now we have to go for the visa interview. We got there. It was more like the person was just playing with us. Like it was just the person was asking us like, "Oh, what would you love to do when you get to America?" Oh, da 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 da.
I'm telling you.
I was thinking like, is this because the things that we hear from, they are more like scary things. Like they can just look at you and reject you. Or I'm not saying it's not happening. People, but we went with so much favor. The person was just playing with us. Like it wasn't something of a real interview. So that was how we got the whole thing. We got it in the month of December of 2009. They all, document the visa, which is the immigrant visa, We got everything December 2009. January 2010, we were in America. Like we couldn't wait. Like it was more like, oh no, we couldn't wait. Our parents, friends, everybody, they saw us off to the airport, bought a ticket. It was literally like a month. Then we came to America. So it just made me to reflect on the goodness of God. And I looked through the journey. It looks so easy that we're summarizing everything, but a lot has went into it. There has been days of crying. There has been moments of sadness. There has been moments of disappointment. There has been moments of, you think, I know that sometimes I'll even feel like, am I in the wrong marriage? Like, sometimes I will feel like maybe I shouldn't have gotten married, or maybe like this is not the plan of God. There has been a lot of down moments, So it hasn't always been a smooth journey.
Yeah.
So, but, we just thank God. And then when you look back, if I had stayed back in the United Kingdom, I probably would have lost my family. Like, he probably will marry somebody else last, or I will face myself to surrender myself to for deportation because he cannot come, you know. So if I had stayed there, I would have just altered the plan of God for my life. I know.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that each time I look back, I'm always grateful.
So, for those who haven't traveled, those who don't know what would have happened, like as you were explaining, if you had stayed in the UK, you probably wouldn't have the life that you have here.
Yeah.
First of all, like you would have to go, in order for you to get legitimate papers, you need to marry someone else.
Of course, there would have been a way that I have to figure out, you know. And I know whatever life that I'm gonna live in London and UK wouldn't have been the best life because I'm gonna be doing many a job because I don't even have the confidence or anything. You know, it's not anything that it's not like a stay. You know, it's just a visiting. So I can only pick up many a job. I can only pick up things that are not gonna be sufficient to build wealth or anything. It's just deliberate, just for me to eat and breathe, you know. So I just thank God, you know, it would have really altered my journey if I had stayed there. And that's one thing we have to, and one thing I always thank God for, because sometimes if we're not careful, we are not able to endure pain. We are not able to endure suffering, and then we make our own decision that is not the plan of God. Though you might kind of be fair, you know, at least if I can make a little money and I can eat and send some change to them, but it wouldn't be anything like the life that I'm living right now.
Yeah.
So we have to trust God for his plan, and we have to have a way to know when something is not going to be the way to back up.
As we wrap up this phase, because your husband needs to go to church, so just to give people an idea, what do you do for a living?
Right now,
Yeah.
So I'm a pharmacist. So my name is Dr. Bomi Olatunji. And I wasn't a pharmacist from Nigeria. I went to pharmacy school right here in America. Yeah.
And how about you?
Yeah, I'm into installing solar panel.
And probably if you had stayed there, probably there would have not been any way he could have come back to join you. And you would probably not have all the kids. Maybe you would have the first.
Yeah, the first. I mean, we've seen that a lot of time where family just have that one kid for years, 10 years, 11 years, 12 years, you know.
Marriages even fall apart.
Yes,
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of marriages
true.
also fall apart, right? So it's not always the best for the family. Even if at last you're able to make something happen, it's gonna be years. So you're gonna have a lot of gaps, you know. And sometimes they are wasted years.
Yeah.
They are wasted years because they are years out of the plan of God for you.
Yeah.
Except God wants to restore you back in multiple fold. A lot of time you can. That's why you see some people like they are now like 60s or something in America and they don't have a life because their marriage fell apart. Their family fell apart. You know. And they look at the number of years. Somebody was telling me some time ago and said, I look at the years I've lived. They all look like a wasted year because they are in the situation that I would have been, you know, being the husband here alone without the wife and the only one child and the daughter, you know. The wife, daughter in Nigeria, they here for years. And the person said, it looks like I'm living a wasted life. I have to be encouraging. But that is the reality. When we force ourselves, we force God to want to accept our ways, you know, we cannot endure, right?
Yeah, we don't have to help God. We have to follow the plans of God for our lives. That's another thing. Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not saying this to exonerate myself that, oh yeah, I didn't stay back. Because some people, I mean, like, there is nothing, I mean, there was really nothing for me to back home. But it's more like, weeping may endure for the night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yeah.
So we need to have a goal of a bigger picture.
Yeah.
Even I remember during that time, she was telling me, she called me that they were trying to give her a job. I said, you better come back home.
Yeah, I didn't even know if it was what you said. It
Yeah,
was just the
I
inner
said it.
witness in me.
I said, come
Yeah.
back home.
It was
come
not.
back.
See, let me tell you the truth. A lot of people know when some things are not sitting well with them, but they neglect and they boycott it like,
Yeah.
I'll be fine, I'll be fine. But God always deposits something that would make you know it's not sitting well. But a lot of time we ignore that. We look away. You know, we think with time we're gonna be good. We're gonna be good. Even though you might be good, but trust me, the good that you are being good is not the kind of good you
Yeah.
would have been if you had, followed a different path. We have people in Nigeria that are very super rich. I have people that when they come here, the way they spend, the way they, like the life they live when they come here, even people in America cannot live it, And what am I trying to say? God is not only God of America. It can come true for you anywhere you are, If He wants you to be in Nigeria, then He will make it way. We had a friend that suffered a lot here while he was in America, and he decided to go back to Nigeria. He go back to Nigeria, the
My
doors
God.
opened. The
Doors
opened.
open for that guy. He's still in Nigeria doing
Up to
great.
now, doing good. We met him.
In Nigeria.
At the point of his suffering, we were living in one bedroom house in America when we first
We're
came.
living
We
together.
had to bring him to live with us. It was in so much
We
difficulty.
met him here.
And he's been here in America years before us. We brought him to our house. He was sleeping in the living room. We used the room because it was only a one-bedroom apartment.
And this guy went back home. My God.
His wife was home, had one daughter,
Yeah.
and has been in America, trying to make ends meet, trying to just do everything. Try to get married, the American lady.
I think under a year, that guy, he built a good home for himself.
When he went back to Nigeria, he decided I was going to go back.
Yeah.
Even though the way he went back, he cannot come back here because he went on his own accord, like he left. But when I look at his life, because we see some of the work he does on social media, on Facebook, we follow each other. I'm always, I marvel at the works of God.
Yeah.
This is a guy that can barely feed himself at a point.
Another thing, it's always good to be where God has ordained you to be. I'm telling you, it's always good. We should not go ahead of God. He has plans for each and every one of us. If you're supposed to be in Nigeria and you are here, things will be so difficult. We have few people now, they don't, like she has said, they don't know what they will do to their life because things are not going the way they expected.
Yeah.
So it's always good not to go ahead of God. We should always, as a Christian, we should always seek God's face.
This story I told you, I dropped 1 minute of it on my Instagram. It was just a minute of it some years ago. The part about, I give it a title, follow, and I just only spoke 1 minute about me not staying in the UK. And somebody left a comment and said, this is the clue I needed to know. Because right now I'm in America, I'm so confused whether to stay or go back. But now I'm going to go back to Nigeria. I was like, well, it was just 1 minute. I just spoke about how the decision will make, how it affects our life. And somebody left that comment. So I don't know if it's going to be, if our video will be a clue to somebody, to follow the path of God.
Yeah.
God is not the God of America. He is the God of the whole world.
The whole world.
Wherever He knows you're going to succeed and prosper in, He's going to lead and direct your footsteps. But don't do it forcefully, allow God. Seek the will of God. Some people God want them to be here, and some people God want them to be wherever home is for them, or even in a different country or a different state or something, And I pray it's not always easy, but God will give us, the discernment to know what He's saying to us part time. Okay.